Huh? We can start now. Mr. Lewis is here. Yeah, we tried to keep you out. He doesn't take the hint very well. Okay, call the meeting to order. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. There's a flag back behind the corner here, led by Mary Tomlin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Mary. All right, first on the agenda, good news. Mr. Hilderly.
Okay, since we met last, we obviously opened the school year with student instruction. With the reorganization of the district complete, involving a couple of new buildings and then the return of a format in one building. But the ELCs still have the Wi-Fi through second graders, had a great start. It wasn't pouring rain for drop-off as it was the year before, which was a plus. And then the opening of our 3-4 campuses at Patterson and Herrick Park was very exciting. And both of those went pretty well. Just getting the buses through and the parent drop-off. First day of school, there's a lot more drop-off by parents than there is the rest of the year. So managing that went perfectly fine. Also, the reopening of the 5-8 middle school and anticipated traffic issues there, just retraining parents. But that actually went extremely well with the bus drop-off and then parent drops at both ends of the building. So those things went very well. And, of course, here at the 912 high school, just a lot of happy kids to see each other and to be back in face-to-face learning. We are in week 3, day 1, first full 5-day week on the schedule. Currently battling, like everyone else in the county and probably the state and world, COVID issues and managing those things. But as of yet, we're able to staff the buildings and continue instruction for face-to-face students. So all in all, a fairly positive start to the school year. We've had the positivity campaign going on, and we had the third day of school over Patterson, the live broadcast. And really great, I think, performances by some of our students who spoke on the radio. Very exciting. So, yeah, I would say a positive start to the school year. In terms of COVID issues, as I'll report later in my superintendent report, we mostly take things day by day. We try to look a little bit further down the road if we can, but with staffing issues, we just try to make sure that the next day is covered and keep rolling on. So that's it on that topic. We have a graduate from the Tecumseh Virtual Academy. So I will have Jennifer Morgan come forth and introduce the student. I see she's got a fairly nice gallery with her tonight. Yeah, that'd be great.
So I like many parts of my job, but this is by far one of my favorites, is to honor a student that has graduated from our virtual academy. So I'd like to start off by saying congratulations, Jenna. We're very proud of you. She had some challenges this year, but she never gave up. She worked very hard this summer to make this happen. She worked with a tutor to get through that geometry, and I hope that you know that you should believe in yourself. Okay, you just have to work hard and you can do anything you want to do. This should show, or I would also like to give a shout out to Jenna's mom. She was a huge support to her this whole year. And obviously she has a bigger support system than that. she was a tremendous support and cheerleader for Jenna all year. The road to graduation isn't always a straight line, but that is okay. You did it. Congratulations. Okay.
We need pictures.
Got a diploma. Let's go over here for a photo op for
Who's gonna take?
I didn't know what we were doing.
I guess, you got it?
That was a handshake.
Congratulations. Good job. You're welcome. You did it.
Oh my goodness.
Congratulations.
Thank you for coming, folks. You're absolutely welcome to stay, but certainly not required.
That's the reason I called a board meeting.
Right, right. Okay, that's outstanding. We love
So
those types of
exciting
things.
for you.
Yeah. We'll give a minute to clear. All right, we'll move on. Now it's time for public comments on agenda items only. Is there anyone here who wants to comment on an agenda item? Okay. Thank you. Now on to the board agenda. I know of no revisions or changes to the agenda. Does anybody have anything they wanted to bring up?
If there are no revisions, then I move that we approve the agenda. Second.
We move the second that we accept the agenda as submitted. Roll call vote. Trustee Brooks.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee Tomlin.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Agenda is approved. Move on to schedule reports. We'll start off with the maintenance facilities. Mr. Hawkins.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So this year we started out with doing the reorg and went really, really well. A lot of that is due to Mr. Greg Lewis and his band of merry men that he had with Chris Hoig and Will Casper, Steve Ayer. They did a really good job. We moved quite a bit of stuff. Everybody from 3rd through 8th grade got moved, and including secretaries. So we did it in record time. I think we did the vast majority of it in 3 weeks. So I thought it went really well. So appreciate that. And so the other item I have is the HVAC update. Is we're working through some items. We started out the year with some warm rooms, and a lot of that was taken care of pretty quick. But we have a couple of odds and ends that we're taking care of as far as rooms. We were able to get 3 of the rooms today with some portable air units, so they're cooling and taking care of them. Obviously, don't want anybody in 80-degree rooms trying to teach, so those are cooling right now. So those items, those rooms are actually just waiting on some parts, and as soon as parts come in, we're gonna get those rooms cooling and move portable air units out. Cabinets are in. The cabinets were ordered. They're in. We're just waiting on a countertop. Once the cabinets were set, then they came in and measured the countertop. Countertops are going to come in, and we'll get that installed as soon as possible. Playground is also ordered, so we got a 15-week lead time on that. And as soon as that comes in, hopefully, depending on how the weather in Michigan helps us or hurts us. Maybe we'll have a warm winter, or at least a warm beginning to a winter. And the way the summer's going, feels like it's going to be a nice, warm winter. But as soon as that comes in, we're going to figure out the timing on that. If we can get it in before the winter, we will. If not, we'll push that to the spring, and the kids will have that as soon as they open up for spring. So, and some good news, got a new custodian started today, so that's going to be good. Put him in high school and going to help out Mr. Don. And he's not the only one trying to cover nights on the high schoolers. So some good news. Other than that, that's all I have. Unless you guys had any questions on anything.
Yeah, I do have a question. Where do we stand on some of the air purification issues in the schools that don't have that? I mean, we talked about, investigating some of that, some more COVID dollars.
Yep, we have the quotes, and we're going to be talking at the Facilities and Grounds Committee on Wednesday about moving on that and how, if we want to move on that.
Okay, so you have proposals already been submitted by those vendors?
Yes, sir.
Good. And you're meeting Wednesday, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Lewis?
I think it's this Wednesday, right?
It is.
Okay. Oh, wait, who's building grounds? Lynn, sorry. Apologize. Okay, good. Anybody else? Questions? All right, well, thanks again for having a great summer, all your hard work.
Absolutely.
It's not easy, for sure.
Thanks, Mr. Hawkins.
Budget committee.
The Budget Committee, we discussed the want list that the Facilities Committee had put together. So we went over some of the items, including the air purifiers. And we recommended allocating more funds to shore up our IT department, including adding a new employee.
Okay. And do you have any idea where we stand on that new employee?
We have a position being created to post. We have an interested individual that we're interested in, so that turnaround shouldn't take very long. And I expect to have something to report by the next meeting.
Okay. Yeah. So the budget committee's approved the spot. We're going to get it posted and we have a candidate.
It'll be in the revised budget that the board will see again in November.
Okay.
We recommended allocating the funds.
Okay. Right. All right. What's that? Any questions for the budget committee? Strategic planning ad hoc committee. So the strategic planning committee met and we reviewed two proposals, one from the MASB and the other from the MASA, I believe. The committee is recommending to the board that we go with the MASB proposal. They are much more hands-on than the MASA. Slightly more money. The cost for that is $8,500 to have them involved. We will have a kickoff meeting with them. We're working for them to provide this. Once we approve this, they'll provide us with some dates, and then we'll have a workshop. And then at some point, we'll ask for staff and community members to join this committee. I believe they said it was probably a 4 to 6 month process. Is that what it was? I think so. So we're recommending to the board that we go with the MASB proposal. Does everybody have a copy of that proposal? I think I sent it to everybody. No? If not, we can certainly do that.
We got it a while ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Any questions about that? I guess we'll talk about it, and I guess we'll discuss it and vote on that here later. But that's where we stand on that. All right. Self-assessment update.
Right, and just to add a little bit to what President Rotero mentioned, I communicated with MASB today. Their director, Deb Stair, has been on vacation, kind of dug herself out from emails today. I apologize, wasn't able to communicate with me, but we have an appointment to talk tomorrow. So it actually will be better now that the board has the opportunity to act on this measure. And then she and I can talk about dates. As far as the self-assessment, we were expecting to have something emailed from them by today, but in talking with Veronica, it has not been forwarded to us. what we know is that the things that we talked about at the last meeting are true. The board can ask for the first version of the report, and if we want to add a workshop later to discuss it, there's no price change. So once we have the information, the board can look at it, discuss it, and decide if there are further measures that they want to take. So as soon as we have it, we will forward it to each of you.
Any questions on either one of those? All right. Next on the agenda is the discussion item, Michigan Merit Diploma. Mr. Dolson?
I know I was put on the agenda here to speak about this, but really this is Jen Morgan's baby from the get-go, but I'm just going to help her as we go along. She put together a packet that's going to address a little bit of your guys' concerns. I know that the last time we talked about this, there was some concern that you guys didn't have enough information to vote on it. So she's packing around a packet real quick that's going to kind of just have some real quick talking points to it. The one thing that I would like to mention about the importance of this program is that this would be one of the only opportunities for younger people in our county and around our county to have an opportunity to seek a diploma if they're suspended from their school or kicked out of their school or don't have an opportunity to graduate from their high school. Currently, the only other school that does this is in Adrian, and it's only offered through specific times, like during normal working hours, and you have to have certain qualifications to only get into that school. So if you're a kid that is still looking to get a diploma, but you don't have these qualifications that the Adrian School requires, you don't really have an opportunity to get into that program. Our program would be run through the TVA, giving that student the flexibility to still work if they're working while they try to maintain their education to get a diploma. So not only are we serving our community as educators and helping kids still get a diploma, but it's also a nice little business model for us as a school district as well to try to attract some other students that can't get into the Adrian School. So I'll let Jen Morgan take over right now, and you can talk about some of those points.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, as you can see from the flyer, basically we just wanted to highlight who this was for and who this is not for. So we're not intending this for any students in special education or with IEPs. This is for kids that are at risk of not graduating from high school. So they're past their original graduation year. They've had life events happen that have gotten in the way. And this allows them to get that high school diploma, not a Tecumseh high school diploma, but the Michigan Merit, so that they can go to community college, they can go to the military, they can go to work. So it's better than a GED, so it's that level above. But this is not for students who want to graduate early. So there's an application process, and they would have to meet the requirements to even be eligible for the Michigan Merit diploma. So this wouldn't be a student that decides senior year, well, I have 18 credits and I want to graduate. That they would not be eligible for this.
And so if you look at the last example, the young lady that just walked in here, she would be an example of a student that would not qualify for the Michigan Merit Diploma. She was on track to graduate, just didn't graduate on time, so she continued her education through the TVA. What we're talking about are students that are 6, 5, 7 credits behind, and if we don't get them out of here, we're holding them here so that they can complete gym, art, an elective, and all those are important. However, I think we would all agree, especially in today's world where there are so many people that are looking for students to work or trying to find people to work, the sooner that we got them into the workforce with a diploma, the better for everybody at that point in time. If not, then we're not really helping that student at all, because what Jen and I have seen in the TVA world is that student just drops out. And so now we're sending a student out into the world with no opportunity for a diploma, no community college, no military. And I can tell you firsthand what the military can do for somebody. So if we give that student an opportunity to get into those resources later on in life, I think the flower continues to bloom a little bit later than most students would. So that's the whole premise of the Michigan Merit degree. It's not that we're trying to just make pass easier for students, but we're trying to give students an alternate path who may have had some life situations occur to them while they're in high school that other students didn't have to face. And so really that's the backbone behind this program. It's worked in other school districts. It's worked very well in Dexter. We just haven't done that here yet in Lenawee County, but we could be on the cusp of doing something that other districts haven't and serving our entire county and not just talking specifically to Tecumseh as well.
Would these students primarily then, I guess I might have missed that, go through the TBA to be able to do that?
They
Or
would
they
go
could
through
have,
TBA.
they would all be the classes through the TBA?
Yes.
They wouldn't
Yeah.
be like a blend or mix?
No,
with
they wouldn't be
regular-
necessarily.
And I think one of the benefits of that is, again, if what Jen and I have always talked about is the TVA, I think right now we're just using it at a very functional ground level. But what we've always talked about is using it as an opportunity to kind of help people. And so what we're talking about are possibly single moms that need a high school diploma or Michigan Merit diploma that are working and can't get in these school hours, but could take online classes through us and be able to do those online classes at home at a different hour and then get the Michigan Merit diploma for us. Or a young man that's, had some troubles in high school that got kicked out, but now has a job and it's an entry level position, but wants to work his way up. How does he do that? Well, he doesn't have an opportunity to get a high school diploma. This would be an opportunity for that type of student. So that's why
I
the
can see some
TVA
real
allows the
benefits for that
flexibility.
with the-
Right.
Certainly with the unemployment the way it is.
And we would treat it just like any other student. If that student enrolled, we would collect the FTE on that student. We would do all the accounting pupil purposes on that, track the attendance. That student would have all the support that any other student would get in the TVA.
So do you have a set criteria that says, okay, this kicks in now, or?
So yeah, that application process, the student would apply for at the end of their junior year, prior to their senior year. If they didn't meet those qualifications, we wouldn't say, hey, okay, we're going to make it easier for you.
They have to make that
Yeah.
decision before. I think we did end of September was the application date of their senior year.
And what is that criteria that they get into it? They have to be so many credits
They have to
behind?
be so many credits behind and
The panel review. So
Right.
it would just not be one person. It'd be the administrative staff, the counselors would sit and review the case. And
see if there's any way we can get them a high school diploma.
yeah, the goal
High
is
school diploma.
the goal is to see what you just saw.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
To get that student to that point. If that situation can't happen, and to be honest, we're talking about a handful, 5, 6, but it's still a tool in our tool belt that we can use, and not having it means we might see those 5, 6, 7, 8 kids drop out.
What is our average dropout rate annually?
The TVA, it's
TV is probably higher, but-
it's a little bit higher in the TVA because when those kids are coming to us, they're kind of a little bit credit deficient. And so what you start to see is some frustration on their end. I'm not going to make it. I have to do all the, and then you start to drop out. So a percentage rate in the TVA, it's probably 20%, 15% in that range.
What about just normal high school?
It's not that high.
No.
I think we're at like a 97% graduation rate in the high school.
And many of these students are going to be 19, almost 20 years old by the time they get to this point, because again, we're trying to get them that Tecumseh High School diploma. And a lot of these kids do come from other districts that, I don't know, they might have got kicked out of school for fighting or whatever else happened, or the school just wasn't meeting their needs. So we get a lot of those students from other places. But once they turn 20, we can't do anything for them.
And more times than not, when we're getting the kids from other districts, they're getting word of mouth from the other districts, go to Tecumseh because their virtual academy program can help you guys out. They just don't have the resources because of their size for that. But if we had another tool in our tool belt in terms of advertising what we could do, the doors open up a little bit for us as well. And I'm not trying to just base this on a revenue stream, but it gives us an opportunity to continue to educate every student, all types of students, versus just the kids that we have.
We have statistics like Washtenaw, Jackson College, other certificate programs or skill training programs. Are we positive they accept the Michigan Merit diploma?
They do.
I know the last time this was discussed at the board level, one of the comments somebody made, I don't remember, was, we have students that fail ninth grade and they fail 10th grade and they fail 11th grade. But I mean, I certainly didn't see this, and that was kind of a concern for me. And I certainly didn't see that. I mean, there was, what the requirements were, the detail on the 18 credits. So, I mean, they have to pass all the same math and English that our students.
It's all the core credits. So what we're eliminating is those elective credits.
Like?
It could be anything. Gym, you could take that 4 years and get 4 elective credits. Art, music, all of those things. Students get to choose their electives. But when you're talking about a student who's working full-time because they're trying to support their family, I mean, they're spending their time doing other things.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know that every high school offers the Michigan Merit Diploma. It's the extra stuff that we offer at the high school that makes our diploma unique versus a different diploma.
Like, you mean like TBA? The extra stuff we offer? Oh, I see what you're saying, the extra 5
Requires those
credits.
18 credits, and then every high school decides what their graduation requirements are above that.
So we would not be telling a student, you still don't have to pass Algebra 2. We would not be telling a student, you still don't have to take physics or chemistry. All those requirements would have to play in the mix. They just would not be taking them through the TVA, and probably it might take them a little bit longer to get through that because of some other things that are going on. If we kept them in the same mode by semester, if they weren't able to come to school or do what they're working, now they fail credits and they get farther and farther behind. The TVA allows them the flexibility to do it at their own pace and still deal with whatever life issues are going on. They just don't have to take all the extra elective stuffs after, they're 19 or 20 or 21 years old. And we've seen kids that we've been with us for 20, 22, 3, and they're still trying to get a gym credit, or they're still trying to get, an art credit. And it's like, man, this kid could have been out of high school 4 years ago working in the workforce, but we're still holding on to them because of 1 or 2 electives that they can't get it done.
So is there any concern, or do we have any limitations on TVA as far as the number of students that we can put through there?
I mean, at a certain point, yes, but like we're nowhere near that. I mean, we have plenty of staff to handle the kids. So by the nature of the program, it's a check-in once a week with a mentor, and then, some grading and those kinds of things, but we really can handle a fairly large volume.
So this was voted on once before, correct? And voted down?
Correct. It's actually a 3-3 vote, so we just did not pass.
So do we need a super majority or something to pass it since we voted it down once before?
Nothing in policy about that.
So, does anybody else have any questions?
I just think that the checking in part is probably the key component to anything like this, because if they're not regularly checked in with, then obviously, you slip between the cracks even more. That's a nice feature, I think, that the TVA has.
Yeah,
And we have a level, the mentor checks in. If we don't hear from them, we're reaching out to parents, we're reaching out to friends, whoever is listed. I will try to reach them, Greg will try to reach them. So it's not just one phone call along. So we really do try to keep them in our program.
and I think placing Jen in the position she's in now was a great move because she can approach it from a counselor perspective as well. So when I was there, it was more of like, I was the heavy, and kids kind of saw me as the administrative. Oh, here comes Mr. Dolson. But with Jen there, it's a little softer touch, but she knows more about the credits and the industry and getting kids ready and getting them prepared as well. So I think that's the benefit of the TVA program. The wraparound services that you have in there to get those kids through it is the best thing for it.
Board has the opportunity now to review this information and ask questions between this meeting and our next to gather more information. And I will forward any questions that you send me on to these folks and try to get you answers.
Right, and then, we'll place, I give them what I know now. I would be in favor of placing on the next agenda. I certainly want input from the rest of the board. Next month's agenda to vote on it, but this is certainly by far more information than we got last time. And this is not very much, right? We got virtually none last time. And I think we had an issue that we've addressed, but I have no more questions. Anybody else?
I
At
appreciate
this
it.
time.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for putting it together.
Thank you.
Back before the board.
Okay, next on the agenda is the strategic plan contract. I mentioned in the reports what we're going to do. Is there any discussion on that?
If not, then I move that we approve the strategic planning contract that the MASB has presented.
Second.
Any more discussion? I'll ask for the third time. It's been moved and second that we accept a proposal from MASB, which everyone has seen and reviewed, the recommendation from the Strategic Planning Board. So I'll do a roll call vote. Trustee Tomlin,
Aye.
Trustee Simpson,
Aye.
Trustee Lewis,
Aye.
Trustee Davis,
Aye.
Trustee Brooks.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Mr. Hill, will you please advise them? And so now you'll get us some dates and we'll set up a workshop time here in the
We
near
will.
future.
And we'll also talk about, she will give me some options. I know a few of their people who work in the organization. My input on it is that I want somebody to come with an open mind and a clean agenda so that we get authentic input from our community and our staff to have a strategic plan that everybody can be proud of. And I look forward to getting that started.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the administration part of the agenda. We'll get to the consent agenda.
Everybody's had a chance to look at those. If so, I could make that motion to approve the consent agenda, which would be the minutes from the regular board meeting of August 23rd, and then the minutes from the special board meeting, which would be August 26th. So I hereby move to approve those consent agendas.
It's been moved and second to approve the consent agenda. We have a roll call vote. Trustee Davis,
Aye.
Trustee Lewis,
Aye.
Trustee Simpson,
Aye.
Trustee Tomlin,
Aye.
Trustee Brooks.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The consent agenda is approved. Next on the agenda, superintendent's report.
One thing on the agenda and one additional item that I'll talk about. First of all, my goals update is in your packet. The only thing that I would mention, because it's fairly self-explanatory, a little bit of a curveball in item number 1. We have worked pretty hard in the last couple of years to put together the policy manual. Not without some questions about exactly what the policies are and should be, but I've had some conversation with our attorneys, and True Law has put together their own school policy manual, which in their estimation is far easier for them to defend and for boards to implement. So I am going to, at the next policy committee meeting, I think it's the 6th of October, at least give the policy committee the option of continuing to move forward with the OLA policy or taking a look at the True policy to see if it's something that we want to explore. So I will pass that by the policy committee, and once I have a direction, we'll either continue working on the administrative guidelines in Neola or kind of freeze that and take a look at what Trim has for us. Other than that, the goals are indicated there in the report.
So one of the things that I noticed in reviewing this is that many of these are achieved.
Yeah, some of them,
So-
one was dated for May, when we had the election, the pool and things like that. So a lot of the goals, the timeline has expired and the goals are achieved, and some of them are still in progress.
So one of my first thought was that, well, geez, we need to substitute or to implement some new goals. And I guess I'm looking for input from the board on this. But right after that, I thought, well, we're getting ready to do a strategic planning process, and coming out of that, there will probably be a whole new set of goals. So I'm sure there will be a new set of goals. So I guess that after thinking about this a little bit, I'm kind of to the point personally where let's get through this process and then develop goals from there. But I am looking for some input from the rest of the board about
And
that.
these goals are the superintendent's goals for my progress
Right.
and what I want to achieve in the district. These are typically renewable after each evaluation cycle. Now, in June, we finished an evaluation cycle that was actually for the calendar year 2020. We'll go through that again in December of this year. So January of 2022 will be the next time that I establish goals. And at that time, we'll be focused on different things. Things that will be achieved will be out, and new items will be focused on.
Comments?
No, I agree with that direction, the weight.
The only other thing that I wanted to mention was, I mentioned in my opening remarks about the start of the school year that, obviously we're constantly battling COVID cases. Sometimes that involves students who have a positive COVID diagnosis. Some of it is a staffing issue with positive diagnosis. Sometimes it's a quarantine issue, which is very new. And I say that because in early May of last year, the health department notified us and we notified our families that there would be no more quarantining of close contacts. That has changed. A couple of weeks before the school year, we received a new flow chart from the health department that now says unless one of the contacts is vaccinated, or if both of the contacts, the positive and the close contact, are both wearing masks, if those two situations exist, then a student or a staff member does not have to quarantine. In all other cases, they do. So that's a switch, that's a change from what we were doing last spring, because that's a change in the contact tracing requirements by our local health department. So we've got some families who are scratching their head, wondering why we're making these contacts. The other part of it is that schools are no longer quarantining. They never should have been quarantining. Schools never had the authority to quarantine anybody. That's the role of the health department in the state of Michigan. So we are calling families and saying, due to our contact tracing, we view you as a close contact. You should not return to school until that's verified by the health department. The problem is that there's 14,000 students in Lenawee County, and there's a few health department people working on these cases, including just one medical epidemiologist. So they've got a backlog, and it's slow, and folks are frustrated, and I understand that, because in a few cases, I think people are getting notified of their return date by the health department after the return date has come and gone. And that's, I understand that that's happening. I wish that I had control over it. We don't. We pass our information along relatively quickly, in my estimation. The contact tracing leaves our hands and goes to the health department, usually within 24 hours, which is their requirement, not ours. But their ability to respond to parents lags behind, and they are they're understaffed. I understand that. The other question that has come up is, what is our plan for virtual learning? We know how to go into virtual learning. We had to do that in the past, through last year. Right now, my focus is, in as much as possible, keeping students face-to-face, keeping schools open, and keeping classrooms open if we can. If we have a teacher who is put in quarantine and they can still teach, then we will put the classroom. I think we have 3 classrooms right now in the district that are in virtual learning. And again, we became fairly good at that last year, so we know how to slide into it and come back out of it. What we're not doing this year is a hybrid of synchronous instruction, where you have some kids live and some kids online. We asked our teachers to do that throughout last year. It was very difficult, and this year we made the decision that we will have 2 versions of learning. We will have face-to-face instruction for the virtual academy for people to choose from, And if we have to put a classroom or potentially someday maybe a team or even a building into virtual learning, we know how to do that. We can slide them into that, talk to the association, we'll give them the prep time that's necessary so that teachers can gather their computers and things and take them home and set up a teaching base if they need to, and for kids to gather their devices and books and things and be ready for instruction in a couple of days. So I think that we're just as nimble as we have been in the past. Evan's department has devices 1-to-1, 7-12. We have classroom sets 3 through 6. So that if I said tomorrow that starting Thursday we're going to teach virtually, each student would be handed out a device, either a tablet in the early levels or a Chromebook, and they would be able to start learning from home as soon as we were up and running. So we know how to do that. We publicized that a lot last year because it was new, and we haven't talked about it much with our families this year. But the plan that has been in the past still exists. If we have to go to a virtual learning model, that we can do that. Right now, we're somewhat close to it because we have situations where we either have staff members who are quarantined or staff members who have students who are quarantined and don't have any other daycare arrangements, so they need to be home with their child. And that creates a staffing issue for us because substitutes are very, very difficult to come by. So we have been plugging holes with different staff members from within the organization, and we've been able to do that so far. The same is true with instructional assistants when we have students who are supported by adults, and those people are in one of those two categories that I mentioned related to a quarantine. So far, we have been able to fill all those gaps. It hasn't been easy, but we've been able to do it. If it gets to the point where we are just out of adults, or we have so many students who potentially are in quarantine, that we may have to shift to another mode of instruction. As I said, my goal, our administrative goal, is to keep things face-to-face as much as we can. But sometimes staffing issues may roll up on us, and that happened last year when we just did not have enough coverage in buildings to be able to supervise students. So that's our plan. I think President Rebatero and I have talked about maybe getting that message more clear out to our families and assuring them that we do have a virtual learning plan as we did in the past. We've got the devices ready, and our teachers know how to do it. We'll probably always approach it in a way that will allow the teachers to have some time to plan and get ready. So there may be a pause for a day in between, but we will be up and running and delivering instruction again as soon as we can. And we will stop teaching in that mode as quickly as we can when we can say that we have people who are no longer in quarantine and we're able to staff the buildings, then we will bring people back. So I will develop that communication between Victor and I and make sure that our families have some clarity on that. So that's where we are with the COVID situation right now. It's something that all schools in the county are dealing with. I know that there was one school that is actually closed today and tomorrow while they reorganize and figure out their situation. And again, they have staffing issues, and they're trying to get themselves organized so that they can deal with it. So it isn't just us. And sometimes it does feel like it's just us because our eyes are inward almost constantly on a daily basis. But lots of places are struggling, and staffing is the main issue related to the COVID pandemic. So a lot of information to put on your plate. Certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have either now or in the future.
I have one, Rick. FERPA laws and so forth, we're sharing student information with the health department. Is that allowed under law? I mean, have we talked to attorneys at all to,
We have been guided by attorneys about what information we should and shouldn't be providing. And so far, we feel like we're on solid ice.
I'm just wondering, because we're not supposed to share any student information with anybody other than the parents. So I just hate, it's gonna come up some point, somebody's gonna bring it up, so I thought maybe we should try to get ahead of it a little bit and maybe see what Troon has to say about that,
Okay.
but, I mean, I just, and then, so let me get this straight too, we can, if a kid is vaccinated but was close contact, they can come back to school?
As long as they are not exhibiting symptoms.
Okay,
And
So-
if both individuals were masked in their close contact relationship, if both were masked and the contact student is not exhibiting symptoms, they are also exempt from quarantine. And we have to monitor symptoms for 10 days.
it just doesn't make sense to me.
And these are the rules of the health department.
These are the rules of the health department.
Because if
and
you're
they are
vaccinated, you
different
can still
rules than we
pass.
played by in the spring.
Right. I mean, if you're vaccinated, you can still get COVID and you can still pass it to people. So that just doesn't make sense. It could be asymptomatic as well. So that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So,
Yeah, the emphasis in this plan seems to be get vaccinated and wear a mask. That seems to be the emphasis in their flow chart.
yeah,
But as you say, there are, if I'm positive and I'm not wearing a mask and you're wearing a mask, you're still going to get quarantined.
all right. If I'm wearing a mask, but you weren't, okay.
If both of us are wearing a mask and I'm the positive and you're the close contact, then you won't be quarantined unless you exhibit symptoms. If I'm not wearing a mask and you are, and I'm positive, then you still have to go into quarantine.
And is that just indoor settings or is that outdoor as well?
That is indoor only.
Okay.
Outdoor changes the game.
Okay. All right. Just checking. Do the health department know that we have these ionizers in our school to clean the air?
Yeah, we've talked to about, we have to provide with them all of the measures that we take
Okay.
in terms of social distancing and hand hygiene and social distancing in common areas. And we've also provided the air quality issues that we address and the T360 chemical that we clean our surfaces with. They have all that information, but the cleaning issues and the air quality issues don't have any impact on quarantine. Helps us with transmission, but still, as of today, none of our facilities are on the outbreak list because there's still no evidence that shows that the positive cases are connected within our buildings.
Right.
So still what we appear to be seeing is positive cases coming from outside to our buildings. And then once there's a diagnosis, we react.
And so we haven't really seen anybody we have a positive case, but anybody in close contact, we haven't seen them become positive.
We have not been notified that there's a connection between any of the cases.
But we just started week 3.
Right. But including last year, I believe, too. So,
Last year, there were different measures. So I think that's why the county health department is being careful.
I just don't get the whole vaccinated and you can come back. So okay.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right. Items scheduled for next agenda. Certainly we'll have good news, discussion items, action item. I expect most likely the Michigan Merit Diploma will be on there, but again, I'll be looking for input from all of you. The superintendent's report. Okay. Down to closing now. It's time for public comment. We will certainly have public comment. It appears we may have a few, so I'm going to keep a timer here. Per policy is 3 minutes. I mean, this will go off at the 3 minute. That way I don't have to interrupt you, okay? So.
Yes. Bill Swift, Tecumseh, Michigan here. I'm going to go ahead and challenge you guys a little bit on the notion that was talked about at the last board meeting about the COVID recommendations from the health department and whether or not you guys were following them. And I'm going to say, maybe you guys need some remedial education, because transmitting recommendations is not following recommendations. And I'm looking at the board right now, and I see now I've got two members of the board that are following the recommendations. And I'm going to tell you, I'm pretty upset about this, because I remember going, I don't know if it was the third or the fourth superintendent that we were on, when the State Board of Education sent their top attorney down here to Tecumseh to try to educate people on what their role was on the board. And there was this question and answer session about what the top priority is for the Board of Education. And there were a bunch of answers, and they were all wrong. They were all wrong. Every single one of you that was on the board at the time got it wrong. And the reason you got it wrong is because you don't understand that the top priority legally, from a legal perspective from the state of Michigan, is protecting the students in your charge, period. In-person education, not important. Extracurricular activities, not important. Education, not as important. So, masks. We've known now for 18 months that we wear masks to protect other people. That's the primary purpose of regular everyday people wearing a mask, is protecting other people. So when the superintendents get together and they conspire to violate Michigan state law, which is what they did when they said they weren't going to follow the recommendations of the Board of Health, they decided what they're going to do is say to parents, we are enabling you to put other people's students at risk. You don't want to wear a mask. You want to come in. You want to send your kid in and put somebody else's student at risk. That's not allowed under Michigan state law. It simply isn't. And it's a pre-existing thing well before COVID. And so the reason that it happened, and I know this is the reason, is you didn't want a bunch of angry parents, and you didn't want to have to deal with them. And maybe you're afraid. I don't know. The health department seems to be afraid. Intimidation and threats seem to work on them. So masks are about protecting others. And when you make a decision to intentionally put other people's students at risk, you not only expose yourself to criminal liability, you expose the district to civil liability. And I just want to say this, whoever was involved in this decision by the high school to have a student body assembly where 95% of the students were unmasked, and it was for an hour, those people should be terminated. They should no longer be employed by the district because they intentionally and recklessly put the health of the students at risk. And that's a violation of the law. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm actually Nicole Meyer. I was a student here about 20 years ago. And it's encouraging for me to come back and see that the school board is trying to do things to protect our students. But I'm not going to stand here and say that I'm asking for every student to be blanket masked. I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm asking for precautions to be put in place to help reduce transmission in schools while allowing to continue in-person learning for our students. I appreciate that. There are other schools in the area, such as Saline, such as Lincoln, who are using these precautions when the risk level is high, when there's a high number of cases that are being transmitted, they are looking at different measures to take to protect their students. There's actually a new guideline from the CDC, CDC and from Michigan that explains about when students should be fully wearing masks or where they're vaccinated. Now, our students that are under 12 years old don't have the ability to be vaccinated at this time. Case in point, my daughter, who is in our North School District, my daughter's class is now quarantined. The entire class is now quarantined as of last night, okay? I found out at 7:45 p.m. that my daughter's class is quarantined. I am a county prosecutor who answers to a felony judge. I don't have the ability to just stay home with my child. My husband is in charge of his warehouse. He does not have the ability to stay home with our child. My child has been fully masked since day one. My 4-year-old has been fully masked and understands this because we had COVID. My family had COVID last month, and I understand how quickly it passes because I didn't know I had it. I was asymptomatic for the first 4 days. I passed it to my 1-year-old, who passed it to the rest of my family within a day. We all tested positive. Now, because my 4-year-old had COVID, she, per our doctor and the nurse at this school who I talked to last night, should be able to go back to school because she's technically immune from getting it for the next 90 days. But she has to stay home and is quarantined until the health department releases her to go back to school. How is that fair? I understand, Mr. Hilderly, the option that you were giving where mask to mask. There's no other kids except my neighbor's daughter, who's her best friend, that are wearing masks. Our 2 4-year-olds are the only one in her class wearing masks. How do we combat that situation? That's what I'm asking you as a school board to look at. Ways that we can get around this. Options that we have to keep our kids in-phase learning. Not quarantining an entire class when our kids are trying to do the right thing by wearing a mask because they understand. That's what I'm asking you to all consider here. Something like that.
Thank you.
I'm not a prosecutor. Stick with me here. I'm Sarah Henning. I know and respect many of you on this board as former teachers, counselors, coaches, and personally. I've already written to all of you with the statistics and compelling reasons to make masks required in K through 12 schools, including 18% detected cases of COVID in children, up from previously 14%. Pediatric ICUs are filling up. Children are sick with this virus. With vaccines not available for children under the age of 12, we need protective measures to ensure we're keeping children safe in school during this Delta surge. That includes masks for all. Transmission for COVID using universal masking reduces up to 96%. We didn't learn our lesson from the states in the South that have already gone through this and also refused to put mask mandates in place. It's a tough decision, and that's what leadership positions are required to be making. Make the right, tough decision. My daughter has been in person for 9 days and is already being identified as a close contact. Not only has she been identified as a close contact, she had a fever after having a close contact. So now she has had 2 COVID tests, a 4-year-old who has been wearing a mask 8 hours a day, now has been tested twice. And as you stated, there's been no confirmed cases yet. Well, we will be determining that shortly, won't we? The risk is already identified as a close contact. The risk of her developing COVID has now increased 100% because of the board's decision to not mandate masks. Let's just pray that's the only consequence of her is just missing school and not developing COVID, which puts her at risk for respiratory failure, shock, not to mention long COVID, which 1 to 30% of children who come in contact are at risk for, as well as multi-system inflammatory disease or death. And Mrs. Moore at the last board meeting mentioned kids don't die of this virus. They just don't die. Well, 500 children have died. 500 children that shouldn't have died. But we aren't looking at deaths. We're looking at morbidity. Kids are very resilient. But morbidity is a huge factor of children who have been infected and are at risk for long-term COVID and complications. Not to mention spreading it in schools leads to spread in the community. And you have a job to protect these people while these children are in your care. The CDC, the AAP, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services unequivocally stated children over the age of 2 should mask indoors. This includes masking in schools as well as adequate ventilation, which you've talked about. You're choosing to ignore the subject matter experts here, guiding you in what needs to be done to keep the kids in person and keep them safe. The reason for not doing the right thing and protecting kids in the setting are not based off of science. It's politically driven and it's driven off of money. If you are scared of losing students to other districts within our county, I can tell you firsthand that you've lost students to other schools because you're not having masks in place. I just need a few more minutes. I'm almost done. We are in public education. This is a public health crisis. We shouldn't allow choice when there's a public health crisis. We are smart. We can come up with ideas to keep safe as well as take into account choice based off of transmission level, which Nikki discussed. Other schools have already thought outside the box. Lincoln schools and Saline schools are a perfect example where we can have it both ways. We can assess the risk level in the community, but keep children in person. We're throwing them into the lion's den. It's considered negligent. Nobody wants to make these tough decisions. They want the health department or the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services to make this call. Someone else has to pass the buck, make the call, do the right thing. We have the resources are right in front of you, which I would be happy to pass to you. Make masks required based off of risk level. Stop wasting time. Don't let something terrible happen to you under your jurisdiction. I have all of what I discussed here for you. I have Lincoln School District's mitigation strategies, red, orange, yellow, green. Same with Saline. I urge you to go through these and think outside the box.
Point of order. Thank you.
How y'all doing this evening? Everybody all right? My name's John Meyer. You heard from my lovely wife, and our neighbor Sarah just a minute ago. I'm going to piggyback off a little bit of what they have here. Everybody in here goes shopping, right? Y'all go take care of your families. You go out to the grocery stores. You take care of all those things. I currently run and operate. I'm the operations manager of a very, very large facility out in Detroit. It supplies all of the perishable foods for the entire Kroger network. Now, while everyone in here was either doing virtual learning or preparing for their students to come back for the summertime, through the summertime for the fall, through this entire pandemic, the last couple of years, I've been over here at this site supplying everything to the entire state of Michigan for perishable foods and for a lot of Ohio as well. Now, we have mask mandates in place in the warehousing facilities so that every citizen in this state is protected. Now, all it is food to us, but it's going out to everyone here. Now, we're thinking about food is very, very important. We have to mask up and protect all of those things to protect the population. What do we got here? This is a school. We have all these children coming in. These are great resources. I care more about the children than I care about any of this food. Now, if everyone out here in any of these logistics and supply chains are having to follow these mandates, whether you're vaccinated, whether you're not vaccinated, in order to protect the public health, everyone inside of these school districts should be requiring at least something to protect the children, teachers, faculty members, even other students themselves, to stop the spread of any of these things going on. I don't have a whole lot other than that. My wife covered plenty of the topics that I have. I'm just comparing the entire state of Michigan to this one small county. But I think that our children are definitely more and more important than anything else in this entire world. And if our workforce and supply chains and all the other things that are going on are required to do all these things, I'm not understanding why a school board or a place where our children go to seek education and learning cannot be required to do the same, and the faculty members of said schools can't press these issues slightly just to protect everyone a little bit more. I myself, my family, we're all fully vaccinated. My wife even said I went almost 2 full years from this pandemic going on and not getting COVID one time, and I sit here with 350 to 400 people revolving around to travel this entire state almost every single day. So I don't have a whole lot more than that, but please make a decision and try and protect our children just a little bit more.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? All right, we'll now move on to board member comment and discussion.
I'll start.
Okay,
So I'm on the edge of the table. First of all, thank you to everybody who made public comment tonight. I'm going to take this down so everyone can hear me. Um, um, First of all, not related to the public comments, but I was able to spend Friday afternoon with Mr. Dolson and his football team. I got to help feed the gentleman that played Friday night. I wanted to remark that they were all very polite, helped each other out. Mr. Dolson put me on the spot, make some comments at the last minute. Hopefully that didn't influence the game results, but I just wanted to thank him for that opportunity and just remark on the polite nature of our gentlemen that play football for us. So it was nice to talk to some of the moms and kind of understand some of those situations. The team had a tough week last week, lost a major player to injury at practice. And so just keep those young people, all of our students, in thoughts and prayers if you have them, because it's difficult just getting ramped up for school. School is very different last year, so this year it's more difficult. I can attest to that with a 7th grader that's struggling a little bit. And, just keep them in your thoughts and prayers. Regarding COVID, so Superintendent Hilderly and I have had some conversations, chats back and forth about the vaccine mandate that has come out from President Biden. So, the rule is not written yet. The rule has to be written by the Department of Labor and OSHA before it can even be analyzed. My previous role at the company that I'm at is in government affairs. I spoke to some colleagues. Until they know that, they don't know if they're going to say corporation, employer, or whatever. So please bear with us on that as we try to see what that rule says and implement it as necessary for the school districts. Regarding the mask mandate, my children go to school with masks every day. I have one child who cannot be vaccinated yet. She has difficulty with respiratory issues when she has them due to her Down syndrome, so they wear masks every day. My 7th grader is fully vaccinated. My husband and I are fully vaccinated. I understand your concerns. I do share some concern when I walk into the buildings that the mask adoption is low within the district. It is low within the county in general. So I understand what the parents and community members shared with us this evening. I'd like to encourage, because we are saying we strongly encourage mask use, that as leaders in the district, we consider our usage of masks to set an example. But it's a very difficult time. People have many, many opinions. Unfortunately, it does not appear that we have opinions in the middle about choice, although Mrs. Meyer, you shared those with us today. So just thank you again for sharing your opinions. Dialogue is important as we continue to move forward. We're only in the 3rd week of school. We've heard about the issues we already have within our school buildings. So I will continue to monitor closely and see what comes out of the many different organizations within the state of Michigan and Lenawee County who have an opinion and a responsibility on this matter. So thank you.
I wanted to thank Mr. Dolson and Jennifer for bringing the Michigan Merit to us again. I really appreciate you putting in that extra effort. I was not pleased it failed last time, so hopefully we'll have a better result this time. Thank you for your efforts.
I just wanted to take a minute and just thank the staff and administration for what appears to be a almost flawless kickoff to school year. I mean, there was a few hiccups, but they were handled and the people worked hard. So I wanted to just thank everybody for that. I wanted to say again for the, 5th or 6th time, thanks to everyone involved with the positivity campaign. Certainly Mary and Trustee Tomlin and Trustee Davis were involved with that, and that was great. I enjoyed being over at Patterson and watching the students speak. It was those are absolutely life learning experiences for those 4 individuals. I can tell you that they were very nervous, but they had some great principals and staff coaching them through that, and I was really happy about that. We get lots of emails about this COVID situation. It's incredible to me how divided the country could be, and we are monitoring. Rick and I speak almost daily on it. Even on the weekends, we spoke about this. So I want to make sure we do the right thing, and we're trying to figure that out. It never works as fast as it can, but we are not ignoring it. So anybody else? All right, there's no other comments. I'll accept the meeting, a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Been moved to second to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.